Buenos días. How you guys doing? Hello. Christopher. Nice. I'm gonna do like a color study, I think, today for a painting that I've been wanting to paint for a while. I sort of I started it, but I put it to the side because I've been working on other stuff. What up, Nick? What's you sketching today? I'm going to do a color study, so let's see. This is a piece of linen that I glued to a piece of paper. So this is actually linen. It has like a backing of paper, which is kind of strange, but I'm just trying stuff out. And what I did was my imprimatura is actually like a umber and white, and I just brushed it on, and then I just wait till it dried. So I just want to try it out to see if this surface kind of works. And I'm trying like a different setup today. I'm painting. I've been painting all the time on my sketchbook, kind of flat on the table. So this is like I'm actually behind my cell phone, and I'm going to try to. It's kind of cool because I can keep my distance with my painting. Maybe it's going to glare quite a bit, so I'm hoping that doesn't the glare is not so bad. So, ¿qué medidas tiene ese papel que Iván? No sé, 40, 30, de pronto, menos, yo creo, un poco menos. No sé, ahorita después les confirmo. La paleta, sí, pero es que estoy usando hoy la paleta grande que tengo, que es un pedazo de vidrio, pero voy a usar blanco de titanio, amarillo ocre, rojo alizarín, tierra de sombra natural y azul ultramar. So the palette I'm going to use today is titanium white, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, ultramarine blue, and raw umber. So it's going to be a very cool sort of gray palette, right? So, hola mi Dani. So we'll see how that goes. And I'm using this also. I'm going to try it out. This is Sennelier's like version of liquid. So it's flow and dry. So it's supposed to be kind of less of a gel medium and more diluted, I guess. We'll see how that works. Hola, mi coco. The screen froze. Did it? I don't know. I think that when that happens, it usually has to do with your internet, if it freezes. So just check that. So I'm going to start kind of, and I'm going to be loose with my drawing. So I'm going to approach it like I would usually approach something that I was painting from life. So big shapes, and this is a kind of distorted, one of those distorted images. So it's actually kind of nice because I can play around with proportion and form. So, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So I want to be kind of quick now. I never like spending too much time on these drawings or on a specific area of a drawing, because I know that if I do, I run the risk of just forgetting about the whole image. So we'll see. We'll start quite loose. It doesn't mean that I'm not paying attention to my drawing. Being loose is anything, but being careless. You just have to be broad with your strokes, but it doesn't mean that you're not paying attention to them. So I'm using umber, my alizarin, and maybe some blue just to make it darker. And I'm using very thin, sort of thinned out paint with the alkyd medium. So no glare for now. Yeah, it looks good because this is probably that's going to be my darkest. So we're good. I have light coming from both sides of the painting, so it's probably a little darker in the middle. You can kind of tell that these two are sort of exposed, but that, you know, that's probably best when you want to cancel light out. So this one's actually, this painting actually has like a weird proportion. This arm is going to be, I want this arm to be really kind of thin, and then I want her torso to be like to here, and then her legs are kind of shifted, and then they're there. It's kind of nice when I give myself the freedom to do these. And I've said it before, but when you're painting something that's inherently wrong, there's you can have a lot of fun with it, because it becomes more about the painting and what you can do with it, and not just trying to make things, you know, right. Like right as in if you were painting something from nature and you're trying to be true to what you were looking. So I'm just checking to see if this is going to be close to what I want. There's a really nice kind of, the upper torso, the upper mass of the abdomen is really nice, because it comes out, you know, when the rib cage is kind of projecting out, but then it has to go back so that the lower part of the abdomen kind of comes out again, and then it has to come back again. So I want that to happen in this painting. So again, this is going to be more of a study than a finished painting. But I'm going to see if I can kind of take it somewhat far, but not too far. I think that if I take it too far, I'll ruin the experience that I want to have with the bigger painting. So I'm using my darks to kind of find my way through the drawing, just those dark masses. They can be really nice sort of anchor points, those accents, to find your way through the drawing. So this is that's the arm that I want to paint. I want it to be really thin. I love like the fragility of form. I really like that we often think about our bodies as being super strong, and I thought a lot about, you know, how fragile our bodies actually are after my father passed away, and I started kind of, you know, in my own way trying to understand how the way I would distort or interpret form could speak about, you know, my dad being super strong when he was healthy, and then, you know, he got cancer and he died very, very quickly, and it was so strange to just watch him very quickly become so frail. So in my own manner, I started kind of reflecting upon how I could use what I know about the body to speak about that very, very sudden shift of perception I had of him, and see if that, you know, if that could in a way translate to my paintings. And I end up doing it almost in a, I don't want to take the seriousness away of, you know, my reflection, but I end up doing stuff that's kind of playful, but in the end, it's the core of it is very sensitive. So I'm always curious to see how much I can describe like the solidity of form, and yet also see how far I can push it and see if it kind of breaks, if it doesn't make sense. That's very interesting to me. So I'm still going with the darker, with my almost all my dark hues that I have right now, dark value and hues that I have right now, which are alizarin, ultramarine, and raw umber. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it's pretty good. She looks like it's almost like she almost has like a religious. There's almost like a religious sort of undertone to that sort of pose and that elongated distortion. It looks. It always reminds me. I mean, one of my favorite painters is El Greco, and that sort of Greek Orthodox tradition of just elongating the figures. So I think this is good. I think so. It's kind of close to what I want. It's going to be hands here, but again, I don't want to. This is not about making a small painting today. It's more of studying what I want to do with my painting, with my larger painting. And I'll describe what I want to do with color in a bit. And we'll see if we can showcase that in this one. But as you can see, there's a sense of drawing, and it's not dependent on line. So we're using a lot of big masses here, and the idea is not to understand that you're not sacrificing anything just by interpreting your drawing through these larger masses. I don't know if you guys can hear the construction that's going on outside. That's what I have to deal with when I'm painting. But that's why I always say, like, if you sort of put yourself in a mindset where those things don't bother you, then nothing will bother you ever. So. And to offset that, I have Thundercat playing in the background. So that's a good counter. I don't know what happened in these little spots. I don't know if you can see that. Probably not because of the chat. Oh, focus. Come on, cell phone. Focus. There we go. Do you use different hair brushes for shadows versus lights? Yeah, I'm using very soft. What is this? Let's see. That's a Kolinsky Van Beek brush, 2003. Would that be the date? Maybe I bought this like a long time ago. I don't know. But yeah, softer, more transparent shadows, thinner, thicker lights. So it's a very Baroque way of approaching form. So I think that's kind of cool. Now, this is very useful for this painting actually right now, because this value over here, it's not quite the hue that I'm looking for, but the value over here is quite close to what I need. So, but it's actually a little bluer, greener. So I want to at least suggest that. So let me go for that. Even though it's not quite. I mean, there's not quite a big change in terms of value. I still feel I need to. Whoa, that's me going way darker. Wow, that's crazy. I love when that happens. When you're mixing in your palette and you go like, oh, I'm close. Yeah, I'm pretty close. And you put your brushstroke down and you're like, whoa, what the hell? That's funny. Anyways, that's better. That's a little bit better. That stuff happens. I don't know what people sometimes are so caught up in trying to put those perfect brushstrokes down, like you never miss. You never have a miss. The truth is, like, a lot of painting is just putting stuff down and saying, okay, that's not right. So as you can see, it almost feels kind of pointless to do this one, to do that. But that was more neutral, and I needed greener. And I got so used to, I'm so sensitive to changes in hue, to like subtle changes in hue, that I just don't let myself. If I know that there's a subtle difference there, I just can't look away and say, okay, that'll work. For example, down here, it feels kind of bluer. So, okay. And then the other side, yeah, it's actually lighter. It's actually a lot lighter. So that one we can just lay in pretty quickly, and we'll see. And I'm using just a little bit of the liquid, the alkyd medium. Just so I don't have to struggle. I have a soft brush, so I don't want to. If I'm using straight paint, paint direct from the tube, and I have to drag my brush strokes a lot, that's going to eventually also ruin your brush. If you don't have a proper brush for that, you would probably use like a bright for those things. Like a bristle bright, just if you want to kind of scrub the paint onto your surface. But I'm using this one because I don't, I want to get my lights. I want my lights to be the light on her body to be sort of the important part of the painting. So I don't want to ruin my nice brush. That I do on my own, just being stupid. So you guys don't know how many like really nice brushes I've gone through just because I was stupid. So just improper care. So that's pretty good. I think I don't have quite my shadows, the shadow color. I mean, it's kind of working with this transparent, with this ground. With this imprimatura and that little transparent stuff that I did, it works really well, actually. It's kind of close to what I need. But I'd much rather paint it. I'd much rather mix it and paint it. So let me see if I can get a little close to that. And this is actually just variations. All this time I've been painting variations of the same kind of puddle, which I kind of start with my primary colors. So I have, for yellow I have ochre, for red I have alizarin, and for blue I have ultramarine. So it's a very earthy, very, very neutral and cool palette today. But that's kind of what I'm looking for. So it's actually a little, shadow is actually dark, but it opens up a little bit. So it's not like chiaroscuro like shadow. That's way too contrasty. So there's actually light coming in there. So in terms of value, it's not as dark as what I have right now. It is dark. It has to sort of play the role of shadow, but in some areas it's going to be darker, but it still has a very nice transparent kind of quality to it, and that I like a lot. I love arts. That's good. That's that's good. Yes, yes. That sounded like I love pizza, but yeah. Okay, let me see. Where is that? Kind of lost here. Okay, no, I found my way. So the paint is still thin. Remember that shadows don't describe form. That's the role of light. You know, because of light, we understand we have a concept of form, of three-dimensionality. So we should always be very conscious that that's what light does, not want our shadow masses to do that for us. And that's very objective. That's not me interpreting something. No, we have a sense of volume because of light, not because of shadow. So our eyes work that way. It is because of light that we can understand that something, you know, shapes are three-dimensional. So we can always remember that when we're painting. So right now I'm not so concerned with my brushstrokes. More concerned about having unity in my shadow masses. That's probably more important right now. Sorry, Nicholas, is there any way you could, a few centimeters, the comments are up high. Let me see, let me try something. It gets distorted though. I could lower the camera, but it will get a little distorted and it exposes differently. Yeah, it's lighter. You guys are actually seeing something that's lighter than what I'm actually painting. But yeah, but we can do that. We'll see if it works. Yeah. Is it better? Let's see. Okay, so almost, again, I'm always very aware that the most fun part of the painting is actually modeling, when you're painting form, is actually modeling light onto like whatever subject you're painting. But so this is kind of, it almost feels kind of boring. I mean, it's not boring for me, but it doesn't look very exciting. But like I've said, you always have to kind of show respect to those areas of the painting that are not your, area of interest. And if you do that, you're almost assuring yourself that that when you put that light down, that all these little things are going to work for that light. So that's always very, very important for me. I think it's better. There's more texture detail with the lighter video. Okay, cool, cool. I'm going to the U.S. in a couple of days to give a workshop. So I'm always like super concerned that you know how you almost feel like you have to train and you have to be in good shape. So, I mean, I'm not in good shape, but painting wise, I have to be like in good shape. I have to be sort of ready to like tackle a painting over there. I mean, it's fine if people see me struggle, but it's not great for me. But I mean, I'm comfortable enough with how I paint that if I struggle, I feel I can get out of it. I just have to really concentrate. But if things go smoothly, that's nicer. And it's nicer for the people that pay. You don't want to see someone, you're paying someone and you know, I'm a mess over here, and I'm like, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm sorry, and I'm going to blame it on like jet lag or some other stupid excuse. So I quite like painting in the shadow. Hey, Darren. I find that part more challenging than the light. Yeah. That's where a lot of stuff, like important stuff, happens. This one has a lot of unity in shadow, so it's not as like there's not a lot of variations in terms of hue, for example, in the shadow. But that's totally fun. But yeah. So those areas are super important for the painting. So I'm going to start laying my lights down a little bit. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And again, because I have such a small palette, small in terms of my choices, I just snorted so badly. That was so bad. I have like a cold starting, but anyways, since I have such a short palette, I have to start with variations on my primary colors also in the light. So it's all going to be just ochre, blue, and red. So, did you upload your videos to YouTube? No, I haven't. Don't worry, you guys will definitely know when I do that. Don't promise that I'll keep you guys posted. So I'm trying to find. I want something kind of yellowish and neutral up on her forehead, like top of the head. So that means more ochre and a little hair. Let me get rid of that. So that means more ochre than the rest of the other colors. More ochre and maybe more of the umber, so it's a little neutral. And right now, again, I'm more concerned with the way light travels through her face and not so much the information that's being described by light. I'm trying to respect those shapes of light, and through those shapes I'll find my drawing. But right now I want to give a sense of unity in light. And when I come down, so that's a good kind of base color for my face up there. And when I come down, it's linen over paper, yes. So when I come down, I want it to be a little, it's still going to be a cool painting because of my palette, but I want it to be more of the umber and alizarin. So it just feels a little kind of lighter. I don't know, it's different sort of sense of light down there. And maybe it has a slight value change. It's maybe a little bit lighter and a very slight hue change also. Do your children see your sketchbook? I show them when I do paintings of them. I show them, but they don't think their dad is anything special. No. My daughter has conversations with her friends. My daughter is 6, and she has conversations with her friends in school. And she goes like, my dad is famous. he's on YouTube, and her friends go like, "Well, I've never heard of your dad. You know, he's not famous." So my daughter's like, you know, they're kids, so they're idiots. So my daughter, when she talks to me, she's like, "Dad, are you famous? Like, really, are you famous?" Because I talk to my girlfriends, and they say, you know, they've never heard of you. So what's going on? I know you're on YouTube, but, you know, they don't know you. So I feel like I'm lying to my friends. And I'm like, I don't want to disappoint you, but, you know, people that paint know my work, yes, but doesn't mean that I'm, like, famous. And she's like, "Dad, you know, I've told people you're famous, so you know, get to it." I like you push those value shapes. Yeah. I'm trying to be very. The differences are super subtle. So I'm trying to make just very small shifts in my mix, just so I can get to those. But yeah, I actually love that. Sometimes I'm very aware that I miss. I sometimes feel I miss larger aspects of painting because I tend to concentrate a lot on very small hue and value changes. But I've come to like accept it. Like that's my sensibility. Like that, those are my eyes. Like I see stuff that way, and I can't unsee it now. So when I see changes, I'm like very sensitive to them, and I can't just kind of tell myself, "Oh no, you know, you shouldn't really see those changes. You should paint bigger, like bigger relationships." And I struggle with that quite a bit, but I've come to like accept it and just know that, you know, that's the sort of painter that I am, and essentially that's what makes all of us very different painters, because we don't see the world in the same way. None of us do. None of us. A teacher can always teach you how to see, you know, what to look for when you're painting, but it doesn't mean that you can have the same eyes and experiences that have shaped your perception that other people have. So it's almost coming to. It's kind of hard because you have to like learn stuff. I mean, and those things that you can learn are, you know, fundamentals that are the same for everyone. But you also have to accept that you're going to be different in many ways from other people. So it's also trying to see. It's a tough balance to try to understand and identify what is it that makes you you, and what stuff is just things that you have to work, you know, that you have to work out, and you know, they're, I guess, weaknesses in your painting, maybe, you know, and how to work those out. So it's a tough thing to identify, actually. So since light is traveling from up top to, you know, it kind of dissolves when it's coming further down. So there's still light here, but it's not even close to the light that is hitting her chest and her forehead, for example. So those changes are super nice. I'm very interested in how kind of light travels vertically. That's always very nice. If you have a light source that comes from above, so it obviously depends on where your light source is. So I want those shadow man. Those are very subtle because this is like a cast shadow from her breast, but this is like the shadow form turning, which are two very, very different shadows. So I want to be able to sort of differentiate those two. Okay, that was way too light over there, but that doesn't matter. Nicolás, el otro día te vi pintando la página siguiente a la página de la chaqueta roja. ¿Cómo hiciste para que la pintura no sea un desastre? Estaba seca, ¿se secó? Sí, sí, sí. Es que yo uso un blanco que tiene secantes. Es un blanco que hace Michael Harding que tiene secantes. Y te ahorras por ahí, no sé, 2 días de pronto de secado con ese blanco. Es muy bueno, muy muy bueno, a mí me encanta. Pues se me va a acabar un día y creo que no lo va a seguir haciendo, pero es muy muy chévere porque no es tan fácil de manipular porque es muy como pegachento, pero si te acostumbras un poquito como al manejo, es muy bueno, es muy muy bueno. Entonces por eso, ese lo he usado para la libreta porque sé que me ayuda al secado de las pinturas. ¿Es del natural? No, no, no. No. ¿Te imaginas ese bracito? Pobre bracito de esa niña del natural. No, esto soy yo ya reinterpretando como cosas de la forma. Pues cosas que me atraen de la forma de distorsionar la forma. Tengo un referente que voy distorsionando, que seguramente como es un desnudo no lo puedo mostrar porque o si no me cierran mi pobre cuenta de Instagram, pero porque las políticas de lo que es de la desnudez en Instagram son, lo que es moral acerca de la desnudez en Instagram son medio ridículas. Pero, sí, no, tengo un referente y lo estoy como distorsionando, digamos. Eso es lo que normalmente hago cuando hago estas pinturas donde asumo como cierta estilización de la figura. I use a Michael Harding paint that has a dryer. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll translate. I was like, oh, dude, you too? No, I use, you guys were asking how, like, my smaller paintings are dry in just a couple of days, because, and it's kind of weird because it's, or at least it seems weird because it's straight paint. And the reason, I mean, it's not a secret. I've said, you know, which brand I use of titanium white. I really like that Michael Harding's titanium white 3, I think it's called. It has dryers, so it's a bit of light coming through, not light, but you can see between the arm, that negative space, you can see the background, and that's what actually shapes the thinness of her arm and shapes her torso. And then her hips, like her oblique and her pelvis behind there. So I use that one, and I think it's fantastic. And somebody told me the other day that, you know, he wasn't going to make that much more. So I'm kind of sad, but you know, I don't know. I'll paint with titanium, regular titanium, when that happens, and it'll be fine, I guess. But I like it. I can't hide the fact that I think it's a really, really cool paint, and it's been helping me like crazy with the paintings in my sketchbook because it dries very, very, very quickly. To be honest, I'll show you guys like let me show you guys like this one. When did I paint that one? I think the day before yesterday. This little one, it's already like touch dry. So, oh my God, I ruined it. No, I didn't. Kidding. Yeah, that one's touch dry. So, and this again, like, I don't know if you can hear. Look, like, because I glued a piece of Michael Hart on. Oh God, that's lame. Come on, two. I glued a piece of linen onto the Moleskine pages. So I just did it with a couple of pages, and I'm going to try it out. But so I wanted to do this one to see how cool it would be, and it's kind of nice. It's kind of nice because I want to take some of those linen pieces to the workshop so I can work on linen. And actually, this works really well. So I think this afternoon I'm gonna make some pieces just like this one. Not with the backing though. Not with the paper backing. That was just me being sort of capricious. But with neutral sort of umber. I really like the neutral you get with raw umber. It's slightly warmer. It's not perfectly neutral. I know that, but it's very nice. It's really, really very nice. So I'm probably going to prepare some canvases with that in mind. So. Did he say Michael Harding will not produce titanium white 3 anymore? Yes, somebody said. I was painting, or I think it was one of my posts in my feed. I talked about using that white, and somebody said, "Oh, he's not going to make it anymore." I guess somebody from the UK maybe said that, and which would be very sad because I think it's a hell of a white. It's a better. It's a better flake white replacement than all the crap that they do for flake white to replace flake white, which is usually just titanium white ground in alkyd medium. That's usually what they do, but it's very kind of gummy and sticky. And this one has a little bit of that because I guess you can't get away from that, but it handles a lot better, and it feels sort of stiff under the brush, so that you can shape with it. So brush strokes, you can make a brush stroke and it kind of remains the same. It kind of holds that shape very nicely. It's not easy to handle though. If you're used to like a very creamy white, like a nice titanium creamy white, which a lot of people like, this is nothing like that. So don't think that it's a perfect. That it's this perfect color. You should understand, like, if it's close to what you want to use it for, and then use it. But if it's not, it doesn't mean that it makes it's a miracle white. Timana Benavides, hola, cómo está Timana? So that looks nice. I mean, it's very, very simple. There's a chair here that's greener, which is very nice. I can't push that green too much, in all honesty, because I don't have the saturation to make like a really nice kind of deep green, like a rich green. So those are the sacrifices you do when you make choices in your palette. But I'm fine with that though, because what I gain in sort of cohesion in light and just harmony in light, the stuff that I gain is more valuable to me than the stuff that I lose when I pick a small palette. So I'm kind of fine with that. Are you drawing from reference? I'm painting. Yeah. I have a reference. So, like I said, I wish I could show it, but I know that they would put the video down because nudity is just the biggest sin in. It's ridiculous, but it's the biggest sin in Instagram. So, I've never covered up nipples. I think it's so stupid. It's so ridiculous. So. I never do that. Never, ever. The only problem that I've had once was me posting some of Sally Mann's photographs. She's like my favorite photographer. And I guess somebody thought it was, that her photographs of her daughters are just perfect for pedophiles, and that's just insane to me. That's crazy. So they gave me a warning, and they said, that's not art, that's pornography. So be careful. And people are idiots. People who get offended are idiots, and those rules are for idiots. So I'm just kind of subtly hinting at that chair here. But I like that it exists and it doesn't. It's there, but it's not a really sort of important shape. But it frames her body nicely, really nicely. So I kind of like that. How come we can't study figure drawing? Because learning all those planes, bones, names, and planes put a lot of pressure and sometimes takes the joy off. Yeah, I never learned anatomy, formally. I love to quote James Jean here, that he used to say, all my knowledge from anatomy comes from comic books. And I think that's in my case, it's the same. But eventually, because of teaching and just curiosity, I've learned a lot more about anatomy, but I never thought it was hindering not to learn, not to know. I mean, I can't imagine, I know that he had formal training with Klimt, but Schiele, it's not like he was as formal an artist as Klimt. And I mean, even his early work is not as traditional, and yet just pure observation, and he was able to produce some incredible drawings, and he was able to communicate with the body powerfully. So I always think that there's a point where you don't need so much knowledge if you're willing to make up for that. And in our case, where we paint from nature, it would be observation. So you can offset your lack of knowledge always with observation. So I'm going to be si yo vivo en Bogotá, Dimana Benavides. Is there a reason you choose to paint the hot press paper rather than cold press heavier? I don't understand that quite right. I mean, hot press paper, if I paint on that hot press paper, and I don't know if by that you mean the finish that the moleskin paper has, rather than a sort of rougher paper with a little bit more texture, it would be the same, honestly. I just like the size of that moleskin. And the paper actually really does take a beating nicely. So you can do a lot to that paper, and it still holds up. So that's why I've been super comfortable working on it. But I'm sure there's tons of papers that I haven't even really explored that are equally as nice. So I'm going to try to do more specific shapes and I'll do that by refining my shadow and my values and just the shape of my of the shadow. So I'm gonna use I'm using this kind of mongoose very soft brush that I really like, because it'll lay paint down, but it just puts it on top. It doesn't really disturb the paint that's underneath. So I like that a lot. I like that quite a bit. see, I'm just going to very slightly. A lot of times people feel that a brush only does one thing, and I know this is so simple to just point this out, but a brush can do tons of stuff if you I mean, obviously if you hold it, if you kind of just change the direction of your brush stroke, and you change, you know, while you're putting your brush stroke, if you turn your brush and if you do all those sorts of things. But it's also pressure. A lot of times people don't think about the pressure you put on your brush strokes. And that's so, so important also. That's great, as many rather overestimate formal training. I miss so much of the conversations you guys have, like, amongst yourself. It's so cool. Never be afraid of losing your edges. It's just a sort of invitation to just find them, and you have to be really, really, really good at finding them in the right place. So it's not bad if you lose those edges in form, but you have to, when you find them, you have to pick the spot where you're going to find them, and be kind of really, really assertive about it. It has to be like a really good, good spot. It has to say something about why you chose that spot to find form again. Because remember, you have to draw constantly. It doesn't, like these little exercises that you do. For example, when you do a color study, it's a reminder that you always have to be drawing. You have to be constantly drawing. When do you judge value? Palette or after touching and painting? I would say both, all the time. You don't stop judging value. If you do it on your palette has to be. I mean, you can start generating relationships within your palette, and that's fine. But always think that if your palette is not the same value as your ground, as your imprimatura, then it's kind of pointless, because if you have a white palette and you're painting on a colored ground, like this one that has sort of a gray, neutral sort of tone, then the relationships that you mix in your palette are not going to be useful as soon as you put them down in your painting. So always remember that. So a lot of people try to have a neutral palette, be it made of wood or a piece of glass, and they put underneath sort of like a gray piece of paper or a gray piece of acrylic, or I don't know. You just paint your underneath your glass palette just gray. And that helps quite a bit, but that means that every time you do an imprimatura on your painting, you put or you do an underpainting, you have to give it that same value, or else it's a little pointless. A lot of people get used to working on a let's say, a white palette, even though their paintings are always going to be quite different. So, you know, in the end, whatever works for you, I guess. So again, I'm giving shape to this head, not with my light is already there, but I'm actually shaping it with my shadow. I'm shaping the drawing with my shadow, and all the time trying to keep unity in shadow. That's in this case, for this painting, that's very important. By the way, if you don't know how to do that with your finger, with your pinky, like, learn. That's a really useful. Like, you won't need a maul stick if you kind of have a little bit of strength in your pinky and you teach yourself how to do that. Like, watercolors do that a lot. But if you don't know how to do that, like, teach yourself. It's a very useful little thing. Again, if I feel like I'm losing the weight, kind of light travels downward, I'll make some just very subtle changes there. And I'm not afraid to push my light into those darks again, just to constantly shift from light to dark, light to dark, light to dark. But I don't want to be too... I have to move faster, though. I don't want to keep... spend so much time on that little head up there. It doesn't make sense for the... I still have a lot of stuff to sort of get to. I'm not trying to solve the painting right now, like I said, but it's better to just keep your focus, so... Qué buen dato ese de la paleta. Lo he pillado cuando uso... Sí. Are you using oil or acrylic paint? Oil. I don't paint exclusively with oil, but that's... like my whole life, that's been my medium, so... And I find it versatile enough that you can do almost anything with your oil paint. If you have the patience, you can do anything. So... a lot of people just find very frustrating the fact that it just dries slow. That's a deal breaker for a lot of people. But if you have the patience, it's amazing. I find it like strangely satisfying also to try and paint, for example, this kind of very small head. Well, I mean, it could be smaller, but just really trying to get as far as I can in this very small head with a bigger brush. It's always a really nice kind of challenge.